Hey everyone, I'm Megan Zimba, host of Mavens of Manufacturing, and I'm here jamming out at the Robotics Summit Expo in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm super excited for this conversation because I haven't seen this gentleman in years, and just to have a conversation with him, I'm nerding out like as a technical writer. So please welcoming Aaron Prather. Hello, Aaron. How are you?
Hey, Megan. How's it going?
It's been going well, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. I met you when you were at FedEx.
Yes.
And then I believe it was IMTS like years ago.
Years ago, yep.
And then you switched jobs. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? What are you up to now?
Yeah, almost 2 years ago, I left FedEx because I was given this great opportunity at ASTM International to become their new director of autonomous systems and robotics, or robotics and autonomous systems, either way you want to call it. And the idea was at FedEx, I was able to advance one company in one sector with robotics. It was great. I loved working on that kind of stuff. But the opportunity at ASTM was I could start working with numerous companies across numerous fields. ASTM International is a 126-year-old company. It develops standards for over 100 industries. And so all those industries have their own standards and are doing their own thing, but now they want to do robotics. So it's like, how do we start incorporating robotics into all these other industries through the standards framework? And it was just like, wow, this is amazing. And I have just had a blast. I have talked to more companies, more individuals than I've ever in my life in this role.
You seem to be traveling a lot, too.
I travel a lot.
Like you just got back from Korea. And then next week you're going to Japan. So that's, I don't know how you do it. Like I would probably be a zombie right now.
Yeah, it is a grueling job sometimes, but it is so fun because I get to see all these different aspects of robotics from not only here in the United States, but all across the globe. It's just a fascinating job.
And you're probably seeing things before the market season, which is really cool.
Yes, I get to see what's bubbling up through the bottom. And actually, that's one of the reasons I'm going to Japan is to attend ICRA, which is the top robotics research conference. And this is where some of the robots that we see here in Boston right now, some of them started as just research projects. So I'm going to go see what are the next research projects that are coming up the pike.
Well, and what's exciting about that, so I just had a conversation with Joyce before you, and she's from Mass Robotics, and they announced their accelerator program, and they had a bunch of startups here yesterday at the event. And I was just blown away about, I call them kids because I'm 40 and I have a daughter who's going to be 21, but just the passion and the stuff that they're doing at that age. And one, I think he's already working with a major aerospace company and actually doing things to change how things are set up in rockets.
Yes.
Like amazing.
Yes.
So I do want to talk about, so you're here with Adam Norton, who is the chair for ASTM International's F45 committee.
Yep.
And that's for robotics, automation, and autonomous systems. And he's actually presenting today.
Yes, he's presenting later today.
So on the lack of sufficient standard specifications for interfaces, that's what he's talking about. And then test methods for performance comparison and practices for implementation. I had to write that down because that's a lot of information. But can you elaborate on the work of the ASTM F45 committee and what the significance is in the realm of robotics? Because I did not even know about that committee until we started exchanging emails and talking about what you're doing here. Yeah,
the ASTM F45 committee was actually formed almost a decade ago, but its focus was on autonomous vehicles at the time.
Oh, okay.
And when it became clear that maybe they weren't the best committee to be doing that because there was already some other groups like SAE, ISO were working on autonomous vehicles, they pivoted that more from autonomous vehicles to autonomous systems and robotics. Now the title is Robotics, Automation, and Autonomous Systems. So that is their focus area now. And what they're really looking at is developing test and performance standards for robots so that we can benchmark their performance, how well their repeatability is, and really start building out where company A or university A can compare their robot using a standard in performance over time. Be that a mobile robot, they've developed some standards on how to test a mobile robot over and over again. how it should detect certain objects like a ladder and avoid it. That's actually a big thing, especially if your robot's in a warehouse.
Oh, absolutely.
It should be able to detect various things and get around them.
Right.
So they've developed tests that you can put your robot in. And it doesn't care what your robot is, just can it pass those tests?
Right.
We're starting to work on some grasping standards of how well can your robot grasp and hold on to certain items? How much strength does your grasper truly have? Because a lot of companies don't know how much strength their grasper has.
Right.
Can it hold on to something if something's pulling on it? That's another test we'll develop. So it's this series of tests so that either a company or university can do research or do their product, test it, show their results, and see how well are they doing. Can they get better by benchmarking using the test? So these are the kind of those things that we're developing.
So then how do standards developed by your committee contribute to the advancement and safety of robotics technology?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, one thing that we don't really focus on is safety because that is an ISO, ANSI area, but we support those. So what is very key for your audience to understand is standards and regulations are sort of tied together, especially here in the United States. Back in the 1990s, during the Clinton administration, there was a law that was passed that pretty much told the regulatory agencies of the government that if there was a industry accepted standard that the industry has consensuously accepted as their standard, then the regulatory agencies should just enforce that standard. Don't create a new standard. Don't be the regulatory bad guy. Actually leverage the standards that exist. And so, like for robot safety, this is why we have a great alliance between the folks at A3 and OSHA, that A3 and ANSI developed the robot safety standards for industrial robots. OSHA will use those standards when they're investigating an incident or they're auditing a facility. They'll always check against the standard that was developed for safety.
Okay.
And so this is the same thing that's going to happen going forward is ASTM, UL, ANSI, A3, ISO, we're all going to start developing standards in certain areas that a regulatory agency might then look at saying, okay, we'll just enforce this. So if somebody develops a standard for, say, a delivery robot, then that's what the cities that are going to have those robots operating in their city, they should reference that standard. Don't recreate everything. We've already done the work for you.
Right.
Just implement that standard into your law. And it could be as simple as refer to this standard when looking at this. So this is how standards and regulatories come together.
So without that standard in place, because you brought up delivery robots, can then any state just do whatever they want to do?
Yes.
And that's going to cause a huge problem.
And that's where the issue is. And this is why we really stress with the industry that they should be working with standards organizations so that we can make a consensus agreed to standard that then they can take to those cities or those states or the federal government or whoever is trying to regulate them.
Okay.
Because then they can say, you don't have to rework this.
Right.
Here's the standard.
So when should companies start working with standard organizations?
I would say if the only way your product is going to succeed is that it's going to have to clear some regulatory hurdle, you should automatically start working with a standards organization. And we work with startups all the time. Because the whole thing is we are trying to clear that path for them, and it works. It sometimes there's some give and take that you have to have because you have to get a consensus of agreement amongst all the parties. But the moment you get that done, it's a beautiful thing, and like when we got our 15.08 out with ANSI and A3 for mobile robot safety standards. The moment we got that out, we started seeing more mobile robots. It opens up the market. And so the earlier you get started, the moment you identify that you're probably going to need a standard to help you clear a regulatory hurdle, you need to start on it because it does take time. At ASTM, we're averaging about 18 months. ISO's close to about 4 years. So this is the earlier you start, the faster it'll get done.
Gotcha. So then how can increased participation in standards development efforts really benefit the robotics industry as a whole?
I mean, we're starting to see industries that are adding robotics. And from an ASTM point of view, because that we represent over 100 industries and we publish standards across all these industries, a lot of those industries are coming to ASTM saying, okay, I have all my standards for my industry and I'm about to introduce this robot. Right. That robot has to work within my industry and work within the standards of my industry. So we're starting to form some of these very interesting hybrid groups where we have strong folks on the industry side and the robotic folks coming together to figure out how will robots work in this industry. And I can't talk about specific industries right now, but the whole thing is we've had industries come to us like, we see the promise of robots doing great things for us, but when we put the first one into one of our operations, it actually destroyed $1 million worth of product because it wasn't calibrated correctly. That's a problem.
Right.
But the whole thing is the industry wants the robots, but they're like, we need to develop a standard so we know how to calibrate the robot correctly for our industry.
Right. Because it is going to be different, because I'm assuming with like the medical industry, things are a little bit more complex and delicate. Yes. And then when you get into robotics that are actually going to be interacting with humans directly, like you have your surgical robot, like it's just a whole new set of things that you got to consider.
And each one of those industries has a different regulatory charter. So for industry, it's OSHA. We all know OSHA. We all understand OSHA. A medical robot, that's going to be FDA. So what's FDA's rules going to be? So in the same thing of like a home robot might fall under the Consumer Product Safety Commission. Okay, how are they going to approach the standard?
Right.
So this is, again, why it's really critical for robot firms to start thinking about that regulatory framework that they're going to have to operate in eventually. Yes, you are a startup. Yes, you are trying to disrupt the industry. Regulatory agencies still have a lot of power to stop you in your track. And we've seen that. We've seen like where regulatory agencies have shut down autonomous car companies because of safety concerns and all that. Regulatory agencies have a lot of power, and I don't think because the robotics industry is still young.
Yes.
A lot of folks don't see it yet. And I'm trying to change that. And a lot of folks are catching up on this. And this is why F45 has grown from about 40 members when I joined to over 130 members now.
That's awesome.
And they're all looking at different aspects. And that's what's great.
Well, and I think, too, when you get these young startup companies that are coming in and very passionate about providing value to society, that's great. But also you want to keep society safe and not harm anyone by providing that value for them. So I think once you have that idea spinning in your head, maybe then like that should be your starting point to connect with ASTM and your regulatory organizations and see what the next steps are so that you're not getting too far ahead of the curve and then have to turn around and like redesign the whole thing.
And the whole thing is I always tell folks I might not be the standards group for you at this moment. You might need a safety or an electronic one, and we will refer you on to ANSI and A3 if it's a safety issue, because that's what they're focused on. If it's an electrical issue, we might pass you on to UL, saying go work with UL because that's what they're focused on, and they're going to help you on that. So we all work together.
Gotcha. Well, we just got like the 5-minute mark warning, which I knew 20 minutes was not going to be long enough for this conversation. But I do want to talk about your most recent column that you did in 6 Degrees. You discussed the unrealistic expectations of millions of humanoid robots in the near future and drew parallels with the autonomous vehicle industry. So what are your insights into the challenges the autonomous vehicle industry faces in terms of regulatory and standard frameworks, but also with humanoids? Because if you go around the show, there's like a line, like there's some people that are like really excited about humanoids. And then I think at the Women's Breakfast, she called it an SHIT show. She's like, no, I'm not. I don't like it. So what are your insights on all that?
I'm that guy that's on the fence that keeps straddling, trying to have everyone play nice with each other. I think there is a lot of overhyping of humanoids right now. And that part of my column, I really tried to stress that there is no way when folks say we're going to have 1 billion humanoid robots on this planet by 2040, I'm like, sorry, that's impossible. Even if we put the manufacturing idea aside, I mean, that's producing more robots per year than we produce cars in the world.
Yeah.
So let's take that off the record. But then going back to the regulatory framework, the societal issues, people are going to struggle having humanoids in their workspace for a while. It's that uncanny valley. It's a what's going on kind of thing. So I think we have a long way to go. We have to develop a regulatory framework so that folks understand that somebody's paying attention to these robots and are saying that they are safe, they're repeatable, they can do things, and standards groups will work on that with the regulatory agencies. That's going to take time. So again, that's going to hold back the issues. But also the whole thing is I think we have a societal issue here. Folks are going to question this. Even if we get the regulatories right, there's still going to be a lot of hesitation. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's where we're in between these two groups right now. And I think the folks on the anti-side are leaning heavy into those societal issues and just, no, this is nuts, guys. And there are those folks that are the technological folks that are like, this is the greatest thing on earth, this is great, but they need to be sort of checked as well. So it's this balancing act.
It's like the Star Wars fans that are really obsessed with all the robots in Star Wars, but then it's like the horror film fans where they see that Megan movie and they're like, nope, this thing is going to come in my house and try to kill me.
And the whole thing is there's been poll after poll of, are you a C-3PO fan or an R2-D2 fan? And R2-D2 always gets 2 votes for every C-3. That tells you enough right there. That you're pro-robot, you're just not pro-humanoid yet. Right. You just want the robot being the nice, fun thing that's doing its thing. You don't want it looking human at you.
So my last 2 questions. One, you just got a new certification. Yep. So I want you to briefly touch on that because I know we're running low on time. But I also want you to kind of conclude with what your biggest ask would be from our audience and those tuning in on this episode.
I mean, the whole thing is actually I can combine those. UL is certifying all their technical advisory committee members. And this just talks about how all us standards organizations, UL, ANSI, ASTM, ISO, we're all talking and we're all interlocked with each other. We have our lanes we stay in. As I said, we focus on test and performance, very agnostic. ANSI's on safety and ISO's on safety. And my big ask is we need more folks on these committees. We need those experts. And even if you think, well, I can't talk about all the stuff, you might have a very specific knowledge set that is going to help us get over a standard roadblock, something that we're trying to figure out. So getting involved in a standards organization, the more the merrier. I'm on pretty much all of them, but I'm paid to do that. But the whole thing is we need folks. If you're an electrical engineer in robotics, we would love you to be on the UL committees. If you're a safety expert, we need you on the A3 ANSI committees. If you're just wanting to do research to standardization and build more tests and performance standards, I want you on my team. So the whole thing is talk to us and we'll find a place in our ecosystem for you. But the more experts we have, the better the standards are, which then lead to the better regulatory agency turnout that we want. So it's all interconnected. So if you're interested in volunteering your time, please just reach out to any of us in the standards world. We will find you a home.
Awesome. Is the quickest way then to link with you on LinkedIn? And
contact me on LinkedIn. You can also just Google ASTM F45 and you'll find our email address. Nora Nimricker is our staff manager, and she will gladly get you all set up.
Awesome. Well, Aaron, I appreciate this time. It's been great seeing you and chatting with you.
Yep.
Don't be a stranger because you know me. I'm a nerd for all the information that you have coming your way. So
absolutely.
We'll see each other sooner than 3 years.
Yes, we will.
I'm Megan Zimma. This has been another great conversation here at the Robotics Summit and Expo. If you aren't here at this show this year, please put it on your calendar for next year because it's such a great educational opportunity and you're going to meet a lot of great people like Aaron and learn a lot of great things about robotics and automation of the future. Take care, everyone.